Good morning. Welcome to Lisa Marie Designs. I'm Lisa Maria.
And I'm Johnny. And that's Foofi.
And take one. Take two. Take two. We're getting ready to read the chapter 13 of Jaws.
She's Elisa Maria from Elisa Maria Designs.
They got all that already.
And I'm the husband, John.
Yeah, they got all that already. So are you ready to read?
I'm ready, babe.
All right, let's go.
Okay.
Here you go. You take the camera.
No. Leave it.
No, I can't. Here.
You're not putting that thing on the boat, said Quint. They stood on the dock in the brightening light. The sun had cleared the horizon, but it lay behind a low bank of clouds that touched the eastern sea. A gentle wind blew from the south. The boat was ready to go. Barrels lined the bow, rods stood straight in their holders, leaders snapped into eyelets on the reels. The engine chugged quietly, sputtering bubbles as tiny waves washed against the exhaust pipe, coughing diesel fumes that rose and were carried away by the breeze. At the end of the dock, a man got into a pickup truck and started the engine. And the truck began to move slowly off down the dirt road. The words stenciled on the door of the truck read, Woods Hole Oceanographic Institute. Quint stood with his back to the boat, facing Brody and Hooper, who stood on each side of an aluminum cage. The cage was slightly over 6 feet tall, and 6 feet wide, and 4 feet deep inside. Inside, there was a control panel. Atop were 2 cylindrical tanks. On the floor of the cage were a scuba mask, a regulator, a face mask, and a wetsuit. Why not? Said Hooper. It doesn't weigh much, and I can lash it down out of the way. Take up too much room, said Quint. That's what I said Brody, but he wouldn't listen. What the hell is it anyway, said Quint. It's a shark cage, said Hooper. Divers use them to protect themselves when they're swimming in the open ocean. I had it sent down from Woods Hole in that truck that just left. And what do you plan to do with it? When we find a fish, or when the fish finds us, I want to go down in the cage and take some pictures. No one's ever been able to photograph a fish this big before. Not a chance. Not on my boat. Well, why not? It's foolishness, that's why. A sensible man knows his limits. That's beyond our limits. How do you know? It's beyond any man's limits. A fish that big could eat that cage for breakfast. But would he? I don't think so. I think he might bump it, might even mouth it. But I don't think he'd seriously try to eat it. Oh, he would if he saw something as juicy as you inside. I doubt it. Forget it. Look, Quint, this is the chance of a lifetime. Not just for me. I wouldn't have thought of doing it until I saw that fish yesterday. It's unique, at least in this hemisphere. And even though people have filmed great whites before, no one has ever filmed a 20-foot white swimming in the open ocean. Never. He said forget it, Brody said, so forget it. Besides, I don't want the responsibility. We're out here to kill that fish, not make a home movie about it. What responsibility? You're not responsible for me. Oh, yes, I am. The town of Amity is paying for this trip. So, what I say goes. Hooper said to Quint. I'll pay you. Quint smiled. Oh, yeah? How much? Forget it, said Brody. I don't care what Quint says. I say you're not bringing that thing along. Hooper ignored him and said to Quint, $100 cash in advance, the way that you like it. He reached into his back pocket for his wallet. I said no, said Brody. What do you say, Quint? $100 cash. Here it is. He counted 520s out and held them out to Quint. I don't know. Then Quint reached for the money and said, shit, I don't suppose it's my business to keep a man from killing himself if he wants to. You put that cage on the boat, Brody said to Quint, and you don't get your 400. If Hooper wants to kill himself, Brody thought, let him do it on his time. And if the cage doesn't go, said Hooper, I don't go. Go fuck yourself, Brody said. You can stay here for all I care. Well, I don't think Quint would like that. Right, Quint? You want to go out? Take on that fish, which is you and the chief? You feel good about that? We'll find another man, Brody said. Go ahead, Hooper snapped. Good luck. Can't do it, said Quint. Not on short notice. Then the hell with it, said Brody. We'll go tomorrow. Hooper can go back to Woods Hole and play with his fish. Hooper was angry. Angrier, in fact, than he knew. For before he could stop himself, he said, that's not all I might. Oh, forget it. For several seconds, a leaden silence fell over the three men. Brody stared at Hooper, unwilling to believe what he had heard, uncertain how much substance there was in the remark and how much empty threat. And suddenly, he was overcome with rage. He reached Hooper in 2 steps, grabbed both sides of his collar, and rammed his fists into Hooper's throat. What was that? What did you say? Hooper could hardly breathe. He clawed at Brody's fingers. Nothing, he said, choking. Nothing. He tried to back away. But Brody just gripped him tighter. Nothing. I tell you, I was angry. It was something to say. Now, where were you last Wednesday afternoon? Nowhere. Hooper's temples were throbbing. Let me go. You're choking me. Where were you? Brody twisted his fists tighter. In a motel. Now, let me go. Brody eased his grip. With who? He said, praying to himself. God, don't let it be Ellen. Let his alibi be a good one. Daisy Wicker. Liar. Brody tightened his grip again, and he felt tears begin to squeeze from his eyes. What do you mean, said Hooper, struggling to free himself. Daisy Wicker's a goddamn lesbian. What were you doing? Knitting? Hooper's thoughts were fogging. Brody's knuckles were cutting off the flow of blood to his brain. His eyelids were flickered, and he began to lose consciousness. Brody released him and pushed him down to the dock where he sat, sucking air. What do you say to that, said Brody. Are you such a fucking hot shot you can fuck a lesbian? Hooper's mind cleared quickly and he said, "No, I didn't find it out until it was too late." "What do you mean? You mean she went with you to a motel and then turned you down?" "No dyke is going to go to any motel room with you." "She did," said Hooper, desperately trying to keep pace with Brody's questions. "She said that it was time she tried it straight, but then she couldn't go through with it. It was awful." "You're bullshitting me." "I'm not. You can check with her yourself." Hooper knew it was a weak excuse. Brody could check it out with no trouble. But it was all he could think of. He could stop on the way home that evening and call Daisy Wicker from a phone booth and beg her to corroborate his story. Or he could simply never return to Amity, turn north and take the ferry from Orient Point and be out of the state before Brody could reach Daisy Wicker. "Oh, I will check," said Brody. "You can count on it." Behind him, Brody heard Quint laugh and say, "That's the funniest thing I ever heard. Try to lay a lesbian." Brody tried to read Hooper's face, searching for anything that might betray a lie. But Hooper kept his eyes fixed on the dock. "Well, what do you say, Quint? We going today or not?" "Either way, Brody, it'll cost you." Brody felt shaken. He was tempted to cancel the trip, to return to Amity and discover the truth about Hooper and Ellen. But suppose the worst was true. What could he do then? Confront Ellen? Beat her? Walk out on her? What good would that do? He had to have time to think. He said to Quint, "All right, we'll go." "With the cage?" "Yeah, with the cage. If this asshole wants to kill himself, let him." "Okay by me," said Quint. "Let's get this circus on the road." Hooper stood and walked to the cage. "I'll get in the boat," he said hoarsely. "If you two can push it over to the edge of the dock and lean it toward me, then one of you come down into the boat with me. We can carry it over into the corner." Is it bothering you? Brody and Quint slid the cage across the wooden boards, and Brody was surprised at how light it was. Even with the diving gear inside, it couldn't have weighed more than 200 pounds. They tipped it toward Hooper, who grabbed two of the bars and waited until Quint joined him in the cockpit. The two men easily carried the cage a few feet and pushed it into the corner under the overhang that supported the flying bridge. Hooper secured it with two pieces of rope. Brody jumped aboard and said, "All right, let's go." "Aren't you forgetting something?" said Quint. "What?" $400. Brody took an envelope from his pocket and handed it to Quint. "You're going to die a rich man, Quint." "That's my aim. Now uncleat the stern." Quint uncleated the bow and midship spring lines and tossed them onto the dock. And when he saw that the stern line was clear too, he pushed the throttle forward and guided the boat out of the slip. He turned right and pushed the throttle forward, and the boat moved swiftly through the calm sea, past Hicks Island and Goff Point, around Shagwong and Montauk Points. Soon the lighthouse on Montauk Point was behind them, and they were cruising south by southwest in the open ocean. Gradually, as the boat fell into the rhythm of the long ocean swells, Brody's fury dulled. Maybe Hooper was telling the truth, he rationalized. It was possible. A person wouldn't make up a story that was so easy to check. I mean, Ellen had never cheated on him before. He was sure of that. She never even flirted with other men. But he told himself, there's always a first time. Once again, the thought made his throat tighten. He felt jealous and injured, inadequate, and outraged. He hopped down from the fighting chair and climbed up to the flying bridge. Quint made room on the bench for Brody, and Brody sat down next to him. Quint chuckled. You boys almost had a no shit punch up back there. It was nothing. Looked like something to me. What is it? You think he's been poking your wife?
Ooh.
Confronted with his own thoughts, stated so brutally, Brody was shocked. None of your damn business, he said. Whatever you say, but if you ask me, he ain't got it in him. Nobody asked you. Are we going back to the same place? Same place. Won't be too long now. What are the chances the fish will still be there? Who knows? But it's the only thing we can do. He said something on the phone the other day about being smarter than a fish. Is that all there is to it? Is that the only secret of success? That's all there is, said Quint. You just gotta outguess them. It's no trick. They're stupid as sin. You've never found a smart fish? Never met one yet? Brody remembered the leering, grinning face that had stared up at him from the water. I don't know, he said. That fish sure looked mean yesterday. Like he meant to be mean. Like he knew what he was doing. Shit. You don't know nothing. Do they have different personalities? Fish? Quint laughed. That's giving them more credit than they're due. You can't treat them like people. Even though, I guess, some people are dumb as a fish. No, they do different things sometimes. But after a while, you get to know everything that they can do. It's not a challenge then. You're not fighting an enemy. No more than a plumber who's trying to unstick a drain. Maybe he'll cuss at it and hit it with a wrench. But deep down, he don't think he's fighting somebody. Sometimes I run into ornery fish that gives me more trouble than other ones. But I just use different tools. There are fish you can't catch, aren't there? Oh, sure. But that don't mean they're smart or sneaky or anything. It only means they're not hungry when you try to catch them. Or they're too fast for you. Or you're just using the wrong bait. Quint fell silent for a moment, and then he spoke again. Once, he said, a shark almost caught me. It was about 20 years ago. I had a fair-sized blue shark to gaff. He gave a big yank, and he hauled me overboard with him. What did you do? Come up over that transom so fast, I don't think my feet touched anything between water and deck. I was lucky that I had fell over the stern, where it's fairly low down, near the water. If I'd have fallen off over amidships, I don't know what I would have done. Anyway, I was out of that water before the fish even knew I was in it. He was busy trying to shake that gaff. Supposing you fell over this fish, is there anything you could do? Sure. Pray. It'd be like falling out of an airplane without a parachute and hoping that you'll land in a haystack. The only thing that saved you would be God. And since he pushed you overboard in the first place, I wouldn't give a nickel for your chances. We know there's this woman in Amity who thinks that's why we're having trouble, Brody said. She thinks it's some sort of divine retribution. Quint smiled. Might be. He made the damn thing. I suppose he can tell it what to do. You serious? No, not really. I don't put much stock in religion. So why do you think people have been killed? Bad luck. Quint pulled back on the throttle. The boat slowed and settled in the swells. We'll try to change it. He took a piece of paper from his pocket, unfolded it, read the notes. Sighting along his outstretched arm, he checked his bearings. He turned the ignition key, and the engine died. There was a weight, a thickness, the sudden silence. Okay, Hooper, start chucking this shit overboard. Hooper took the top of the chum bucket and he began to ladle its contents into the sea. The first ladleful spattered on the still water, and slowly the oily smear spread westward. By about 10 o'clock, a breeze had come up. Not strong, but fresh enough to ripple the water and cool the men, who sat and watched and said nothing. The only sound was the regular splash as Hooper poured chum off the stern. Brody sat in the fighting chair, struggling to stay awake. He yawned. Then recalled that he had left the half-read copy of The Deadly Virgin in a magazine rack below. So he stood, stretched, and went down the 3 steps into the cabin. He found the book and started topside again, when his eye caught the ice chest. He looked at his watch, said to himself, "The hell with it. There's no time out here." "Hey, I'm gonna have a beer. Anybody want one?" "Nope," said Hooper. "Sure," said Quint. "We can shoot at the cans." Brady took 2 beers from the chest. He removed the metal tabs and started to climb the stairs. His foot was on the top step when he heard Quint's flat, calm voice say, "There he is." At first, Brody thought Quint was referring to him. But then he saw Hooper jump off the transom and heard him whistle and say, "Wow, he sure is." Brody felt his pulse speed up. He stepped quickly onto the deck and said, "Where?" "Right there, dead off the stern." It took Brody's eyes a moment to adjust. But then he saw the fin, a ragged, brownish gray triangle that sliced through the water, followed by the scythe tail, sweeping left and right, with short,
He's a bird.
Sorry, I'm laughing. Foofi just saw a bird. It took Brody's eyes a moment to adjust, but then he saw the fin, a ragged, brownish gray triangle that sliced through the water, followed by the scythe tail, sweeping left and right with short, spasmodic thrusts. The fish was at least 30 yards behind the boat, Brody guessed. Maybe 40. Are you sure it's him? Brody asked. It's him, said Quint. What are you going to do? Nothing. Not till we see what he does. Hooper, you keep ladling that shit. Let's bring him in here. Hooper lifted the bucket up onto the transom and scooped the chum into the water. Quint walked forward, fastened the harpoon head to the wooden shaft, picked up a barrel, and he put it under one arm. He held the coiled rope over his other arm and clutched the harpoon in his hand. He carried it all aft and set it on the deck. The fish cruised back and forth in the slake, seeming to search for the source of the bloody miasma. Reel in those lines, Quint said to Brody. They won't do any good now. We got him up. Brody brought in the lines one by one and let the squid bait fall to the deck. The fish moved slightly closer to the boat, still cruising slowly though. Quint set the barrel on the transom to the left of Hooper's bucket and arranged the rope beside it. Then he climbed up the transom and stood, his right arm cocked, holding the harpoon. Come on. Come on here. But the fish would come no closer than 50 feet from the boat. I don't get it, said Quint. He should come in and take a look at us. Brody, take the cutters out of my back pocket, clip off those squid bait, and throw them overboard. Maybe some food will bring them in. And splash the hell out of the water when you throw them. Let him know that something's there. Brody did as he was told, slapping and roiling the water with the gaff, always keeping the fin in sight, for he imagined the fish suddenly appearing from the deep and seizing him by the arm. Throw some other ones in while you're at it, said Quint. They're in the chest there. And throw those beers over too. The beers? What for? The more we can get in the water, the better. Don't make no difference what it is, so long as it gets them interested enough to want to find out. Hooper asked, what about the porpoise? Why, Mr. Hooper, Quint said. I thought you didn't approve. Never mind that, Hooper said excitedly. I want to see that fish. We'll see, said Quint. If I have to use it, I will. The squid had drifted back toward the shark, and one of the beers bobbed on the surface as it slowly faded aft of the boat. But still, the fish stayed away.
So Johnny and I took a little intermission that spanned a day. It's the next day. We're inside. The distraction I don't think was too bad in the background. My neighbors were being really quiet. They heard us. But it was nice being outside with Foofi and the birds. I am going to be diamond painting my mermaid, which you guys got a look at yesterday during the live that we did. And that was a lot of fun. That was just impromptu, a lot of fun. So let me give you a peek of the mermaid. It was literally recording without the record button on. So I'm going to be working on her. It's my hope to get this done. And Johnny is now ready to read. So I'm going to pass this over.
They waited. Hooper ladling, Quint poised on the transom, Brody standing by one of the rods. Shit, said Quint. I guess I got no choice. He set the harpoon down and jumped off the transom. He flipped the top off the garbage can next to Brody, and Brody saw the lifeless eyes of the tiny porpoise as it swayed in the briny water. The sight repelled him, and he turned away. "Well, little fella, the time has come." From the lazarette, he took a length of dog leash chain and snapped one end of it into the hook eye protruding from beneath the porpoise's jaw. To the other end of the chain, he tied a length of 3/4 inch hemp. He uncoiled several yards of the rope, cut it, and made it fast to a cleat on the starboard gunwale. "I thought you said the shark could pull out a cleat," Brody said. "It might just," said Quint, "but I'm betting I can get an iron in him and cut the rope before he pulls it taut enough to yank the cleat." Quint took hold of the dog chain and lifted the starboard gunwale and set it down. He climbed onto the transom and pulled the porpoise after him. He took the knife from the sheath at his belt. With his left hand, he held the porpoise out in front of him. Then, with his right, he cut a series of shallow slashes in the porpoise's belly. A rank, dark liquid oozed from the animal and fell in droplets on the water. Quint tossed the porpoise into the water. He let out 6 feet of line, then put the rope under his foot on the transom and stepped down hard. The porpoise floated just beneath the surface of the water, less than 6 feet from that boat. "That's pretty close," Brody said. "Has to be," said Quint. "I can't get a shot at him if he's 30 feet away." "Well, why are you standing on the rope?" "To keep the little fella where he is. I don't want to cleat it down that close to the boat. If he took it and didn't have any running room, he could thrash around and beat us to pieces." Quint hefted the harpoon and looked at the shark's fin. The fish moved closer, still cruising back and forth, closing the gap between itself and the boat by a few feet with every passage. Then it stopped, 20, 25 feet away, and for a second seemed to lie motionless in the water, aimed directly at the boat. The tail dropped beneath the surface. The dorsal fin slid backward and vanished, and the great head reared up, mouth open in a slack and savage grin, eyes black and abysmal. Brody just stared in mute horror, sensing that this was what it must be like to try to stare down the devil. "Hey, fish," Quint called. He stood on the transom, legs spread, his hand curled around the shaft of the harpoon that rested on his shoulder. "Come see what we've got for you." For another moment, the fish hung in the water, watching. Then, soundlessly, the head slid back and disappeared. "Where'd he go?" Brody asked. "He'll be coming now," said Quint. "Come, fish. Come, fish. Come get your supper." He pointed the harpoon at the floating porpoise. Suddenly, the boat lurched violently to the side. Quint's legs skidded out from under him, and he fell on his back on the transom. The harpoon dart separated from the shaft and clattered to the deck. Brody tumbled sideways, grabbed the back of the chair, and twirled around as the chair swiveled. Hooper spun backward and slammed into the port gunwale. The rope attached to the porpoise tautened and shivered. The knot by which it was secured to the cleat tightened so hard that the rope flattened and its fibers popped. The wood under the cleat began to crack. Then the rope snapped backward, went slack, and curled in the water beside the boat. "I'll be fucked," said Quint. "It was like he knew what you were trying to do," said Brody. "Like he knew that there was a trap set for him." "God damn it," said Quint. "I've never seen a fish do that before. He knew if he knocked you down, he could get to that porpoise. Shit. He was just aiming for the porpoise and he missed." Hooper said, "Aiming from the opposite side of the boat?" "Well, it don't make no never mind," said Quint. "Whatever he did, it worked." "How do you think he got off the hook?" said Brody. "He didn't pull the cleat out." Quint walked over to the starboard gunwale and began to pull in the rope. "Well, he either bit right through the chain or else..." "Nah, that's what I figured." He leaned over the gunwale and grabbed the chain. He pulled it aboard. It was intact. The clip still attached to the eye of the hook, but the hook itself had been destroyed. The steel shaft no longer curled. It was nearly straight, marked by two small bumps where once it had been tempered into a curve. "Jesus Christ," said Brody. "He did that with his mouth?" "Bent it out as nice as you please," said Quint. "Probably didn't slow him down for more than a second or two." Brody started to feel lightheaded. His fingertips tingled. He sat down in the chair and drew several deep breaths, trying to stifle the fear that was mounting inside of him. "Where do you suppose he's gone?" said Hooper, standing at the stern and looking in the water. "Oh, he's around here somewhere," Quint answered. "I imagine he'll be back. That porpoise wasn't any more to him than an anchovy is to a bluefish. He'll be looking for more food." He reassembled the harpoon, recoiled the rope, and set them on the transom. "We're just going to have to wait and keep chumming. I'll tie up some more squid and hang them overboard." Brody watched Quint as he wrapped twine around each squid and dropped it overboard, attached to the boat, cleats, rod holders, and almost anything else around which he could tie a knot. When a dozen squid had been placed at various points and various depths around the boat, Quint climbed to the flying bridge and sat down. Hoping to be contradicted, Brody said, "That sure does seem to be one smart fish." "Smart or not, I wouldn't know," said Quint. "But he's doing things I've never seen a fish do before." He paused and said, as much to himself as to Brody, "But I'm going to get that fucker. That's one thing for sure." "Well, how can you be so sure?" "I know it. That's all. Now leave me be." It was a command, not a request. And though Brody still wanted to talk about anything, even the fish itself, as long as he could steer his mind away from the image of the beast lurking in the water below him, he said nothing more. He checked his watch. It was 11:05. They waited, expecting at any moment to see the fin rise off the stern and cut back and forth through the water. Hooper ladled chum, which sounded to Brody every time it hit the water like diarrhea. At 11:30, Brody was startled by a sharp, resonant snap. Quint leaped down the ladder, across the deck, and onto the transom. He picked up the harpoon, held it at his shoulder, and he scanned the water around the stern. "What the hell was that?" Brody asked. "He's back." "How do you know? What was the noise?" "Twine snapping." He took one of the squid. "Why would it snap? Why won't he chew right through it?" "Because he probably never bit down on it. He sucked it in, and the twine came tight behind his teeth when he closed his mouth. He went like this, I imagine." Quint jerked his head to the side, and the line parted. "How could we hear it snap if it snapped underwater?" "It didn't snap underwater, for Christ's sake. It snapped right there." Quint pointed to a few inches of limp twine hanging from a cleat midships. "Oh," said Brody as he looked at the remnant. He saw another piece of twine a few feet farther up the gunwale go limp. "There's another one," he said. He stood and walked to the gunwale and pulled in the line. "He must be right underneath us," Quint said. "Anybody care to go swimming?" "Let's put the cage overboard," said Matt Hooper. "You're kidding," Brody said. "No, I'm not. It might bring him out." "With you in it?" "Well, not at first. Let's see what he does. What do you say, Quint?" "Might as well. Can't hurt. Just to put it in the water. And after all, you did pay for it." He put down the harpoon, and he and Hooper walked to the cage. They tipped the cage onto its side, and Hooper opened the top hatch and crawled through it. He removed the scuba tank, regulator, face mask, and neoprene wetsuit, and set them up on the deck. They tipped the cage upright again and slid it across the deck to the starboard gunwale. "You got a couple of lines?" Hooper asked. "I want to make it fast to the boat." Quint went below and returned with 2 coils of rope. They tied one to an aft cleat, one to a cleat amidships, and then secured the ends to the bars on top of the cage. "Okay," said Hooper. "Let's put her over." They lifted the cage, tipped it backward, and pushed it overboard. It sank until the rope stopped it, a few feet beneath the surface. There it rested, rising and falling slowly in the swells. The 3 men stood at the gunwale, looking into the water. Brody asked, "What makes you think this will bring him up?" "I didn't say up," said Hooper. "I said out. I think he'll come out and have a look at it to see whether he wants to eat it." "That won't do us any damn good," said Quint. "I can't stick him if he's 12 feet underwater." "Well, once he comes out," said Hooper, "maybe he'll come up. We're not having any luck with anything else." But the fish did not come out. The cage lay quietly in the water, unmolested. "There goes another squid," said Quint, pointing forward. "He's there, all right." He leaned overboard and shouted, "God damn you fish! Come out where I can have a shot at you." After 15 minutes, Hooper said, "Oh well," and went below. He reappeared moments later, carrying a movie camera in a waterproof housing and what looked to Brody like a walking stick with a thong at one end. "What are you doing?" Brody asked. "I'm going down there. Maybe that'll bring him out." You're out of your goddamn mind. What are you going to do if he does come out? Well, first I'm going to take some pictures of him. Then I'm going to try to kill him. With what, may I ask? This. Hooper held up the stick. Oh, good thinking, said Quint with a derisive cackle. If that doesn't work, you can tickle him to death. What is that? Brody asked. Some people call it a bang stick. Others call it a power head. Anyway, it's basically an underwater gun. He pulled both ends of the stick and it came apart in 2 pieces. In here, he said, pointing to a chamber at the point where the stick had come apart, you put a 12-gauge shotgun shell. He took a shotgun shell from his pocket and pushed it into the chamber and then rejoined the 2 ends of the stick. Then, when you get close enough to the fish, you jab it at him and the shell goes off. If you hit him right, and the brain is the only sure place, you kill him. Even a big fish like that? I think so, if I hit him right. And if you don't, suppose you miss by just a hair. Well, that's what I'm afraid of. I would be too, said Quint. I don't think I'd like 5,000 pounds of pissed off dinosaur trying to eat me. That's not my worry, said Hooper. What concerns me is that if I miss, I might drive him off. He'd probably sound, and we'd never know if he died or not. Until he ate someone else, said Brody. That's right. You're fucking crazy, said Quint. Am I, Quint? You're not having much success with this fish. We could stay here all month and let him eat your bait right out from under us. He'll come up. Mark my words. You'll be dead of old age before he comes up, Quint. I think this fish has you all shook because he's not playing by your rules. Quint looked at Hooper evenly. You telling me my business, boy? No, but I am telling you, I think this fish is more than you can handle. That right, boy? You think you can do better than Quint? Call it that if you want. I think I can kill the fish. Oh, fine and dandy. You're gonna get your chance. Brody said, come on. We can't let him go in that thing. What are you bitching about, said Quint. From what I seen, you just as soon he went down there and never come up. At least that'd stop him from, shut your mouth. Brody's emotions were jumbled. Part of him didn't care whether Hooper lived or died. He might even relish the prospect of Hooper's death. But such a vengeance would be hollow and quite possibly unmerited. Could you really wish a man dead? No, not yet. Go on, Quint said to Hooper. Get in that thing. Right away, Hooper removed his shirt, sneakers, and trousers and began to pull the neoprene suit over his legs. When I'm inside, he said, forcing his arms into the rubber sleeves of the jacket, stand up here and keep an eye. Maybe you can use the rifle if he gets close enough to the surface. He looked at Quint. You can be ready with the harpoon if you want to. I'll do what I'll do. You just worry about yourself, said Quint. When he was dressed, Hooper fit the regulator onto the neck of the air tank, tightened the wing nut that held it in place, and he opened the air valve. He sucked 2 breaths from the tank to make sure it was feeding air. Help me put this on, will you? He said to Brody. Brody lifted the tank and held it while Hooper slipped his arms through the straps, and then he fastened the third strap around his middle. He put the face mask on his head, and then observed, I should have brought weights. Quint quickly retorted, you should have brought brains. Hooper put his right wrist through the thong at the end of the power head. He picked up the camera with his right hand and he said, okay. He walked to the gunwale. If you'll each take a rope and pull, that should bring the cage to the surface. Then I'll open the hatch and go in through the top, and you can let the ropes go. It'll hang by the ropes. I won't use the flotation tanks unless one of the ropes breaks or gets chewed through, said Quint. Hooper looked at Quint and smiled. Yeah, thanks for the thought. Quint and Brody pulled on the ropes and the cage rose in the water. When the hatch broke the surface, Hooper said, okay, right there. He spat in the face mask, rubbed the saliva around on the glass, fit the mask over his face. He reached for the regulator tube, put the mouthpiece in his mouth, and took a breath. Then he bent over the gunwale, unlatched the top of the hatch, and flipped it open. He started to put a knee on the gunwale, but stopped. He took the mouthpiece out of his mouth and said, I forgot something. His nose was encased in the mask, so his voice sounded thick and nasal. He walked across the deck, picked up his trousers. He rummaged through the pockets until he found what he was looking for. He unzipped his wetsuit. What's that? Brody asked. Hooper held up a shark's tooth, rimmed in silver. It was a duplicate of the one he had given to Ellen.
Oh, for the love of God.
He dropped it inside his wetsuit and zipped up the jacket. Can't be too careful, he said, smiling. He crossed the deck again, put his mouthpiece in his mouth, kneeled on the gunwale. He took one final breath and dove overboard through the open latch. Brody watched him go, wondering if he really wanted to know the truth about Hooper and Ellen. Hooper stopped himself before he hit the bottom of the cage. He curled around and stood up. He reached out the top of the hatch and he pulled it closed. Then he looked up at Brody, put the thumb and index finger of his left hand together in the OK sign, and ducked down. I guess we can let go, said Brody. They released the ropes and let the cage descend until the hatch was about 4 feet beneath the surface. Get that rifle, said Quint. It's on the rack below. It's all loaded. He climbed onto the transom and lifted the harpoon to his shoulder. Brody went below, found the rifle, and hurried back on deck. He opened the breech, slid a cartridge into the chamber. How much air does he have? Don't know, said Quint. However much he has, I doubt he'll live to breathe it. Maybe you're right. But you said yourself, you never know what these fish will do. Yeah, but this is different. This is like putting your hand in a fire and hoping you won't get burned. A sensible man don't do it. Below, Hooper waited until the bubbly froth of his descent had dissipated. There was water in his mask, so he tilted his head backward, pressed on the top of the faceplate, and blew through his nose until the mask was clear. He felt serene. It was the pervasive sense of freedom and ease that he always felt when he dived. He was alone in blue silence, speckled with shafts of sunlight that danced through the water. The only sounds were those he made breathing, a deep, hollow noise as he breathed in, a soft thudding of bubbles as he exhaled. He held his breath, and the silence was complete. Without weights, he was too buoyant, and he had to hold onto the bars to keep his tank from clanging against the hatch overhead. Turned around, looked up at the hull of the boat, a gray body that sat above him, bouncing slowly. At first, the cage annoyed him. It confined him. It restricted him, preventing him from enjoying the grace of underwater movement. But then he remembered why he was there, and he was grateful. He looked for the fish. He knew it couldn't be sitting beneath the boat, as Quint had thought. It could not sit anywhere, rest, or stay still. It had to move to survive. Even with the bright sunlight, the visibility in the murky water was poor. No more than 40 feet. Hooper turned slowly around, trying to pierce the edge of gloom and grasp any silver or color or movement. He looked beneath the boat, where the water turned from blue to gray to black. Nothing. He looked at his watch, calculating that if he controlled his breathing, he could stay down for at least a half an hour more. Carried by the tide, one of the small white squid slipped through the bars of the cage and, tethered by the twine, fluttered in Hooper's face. He pushed it out of the cage. He glanced downward, started to look away, then snapped his eyes down again. Rising at him from the darkling blue, slowly, smoothly, was the shark. It rose with no apparent effort, an angel of death gliding toward an appointment foreordained. Hooper stared, enthralled, impelled to flee, but unable to move. As the fish drew nearer, he marveled at its colors. The flat brown grays seen on the surface had vanished. The top of the immense body was a hard ferrous gray, bluish, where dappled with streaks of sun. Beneath the lateral line, all was creamy, ghostly white. Hooper wanted to raise his camera, but his arm would not obey. In a minute, he said to himself, in a minute. The fish came closer, silent as a shadow, and Hooper drew back. The head was only a few feet from the cage when the fish turned and began to pass before Hooper's eyes, casually, as if in proud display of its incalculable mass and power. The snout passed first, then the jaw, slack and smiling, armed with row upon row of serrate triangles, and then the black, fathomless eye, seemingly riveted upon him. The gills rippled, bloodless wounds in the steely skin. Tentatively, Hooper stuck a hand through the bars and touched the flank. It felt cold and hard, not clammy, but smooth as vinyl. He let his fingertips caress the flesh, past the pectoral fins, the pelvic fin, the thick, firm genital claspers, until finally the fish seemed to have no end. They were slapped away by the sweeping tail. The fish continued to move away from the cage. Hooper heard faint popping noises, and he saw 3 straight spirals of angry bubbles speed from the surface and slow and stop, well above the fish. Bullets. Not yet, he told himself. One more pass for pictures. The fish began to turn, banking. The rubbery pectoral fins changing pitch. What the hell is he doing down there? Said Brody. Why didn't he jab him with the gun? Quint didn't answer. He stood on the transom, harpoon clutched in his fist, peering into the water. Come up, fish. Come to Quint. Do you see it? Said Brody. What's it doing? Nothing. Not yet, anyway. The fish had moved off to the limit of Hooper's vision. A spectral, silver-gray blur, tracing a slow circle. Hooper raised his camera and pressed the trigger. He knew the film would be worthless unless the fish moved in once more. But he wanted to catch the beast as it emerged from the darkness. Through the viewfinder, he saw the fish turn toward him. It moved fast, tail thrusting vigorously, mouth open and closing as if gasping for breath. Hooper raised his right hand to change the focus. Remember to change it again, he told himself, when it turns. But the fish did not turn. A shiver traveled the length of its body as it closed on the cage. It struck the cage head on, the snout ramming between two bars and spreading them. The snout hit Hooper in the chest, and it knocked him backward. The camera flew from his hands, and the mouthpiece shot from his mouth. The fish turned on its side, and the pounding tail forced the great body further into the cage. Hooper groped for his mouthpiece, but couldn't find it. His chest was convulsed with the need for air. It's attacking, screamed Brody. He grabbed one of the tether ropes and pulled, desperately trying to raise the cage. God damn your fucking soul, Quint shouted. Throw it! Throw it! I can't throw it! I gotta get him on the surface! Come up, you devil, you prick! The fish slid backward out of the cage and turned sharply to the right in a tight circle. Hooper reached behind his head, found the regulator tube, followed it with his hand until he located the mouthpiece. He put it in his mouth, and forgetting to exhale first, sucked for air. What he got was water, and he gagged and choked until at last the mouthpiece cleared, and he drew an agonized breath. It was then that he saw the wide gap in the bars and saw the giant head lunging through it. He raised his hands above his head, grasping at the escape hatch. The fish rammed through the space between the bars, spreading them still farther with each thrust of its tail. Hooper, flattened against the back of the cage, saw the mouth, reaching, straining for him. He remembered the power head, and he tried to lower his right arm and grab it. But the fish thrust again, and Hooper saw, with the terror of doom, that the mouth was going to reach him. The jaws closed around his torso. Hooper felt a terrible pressure, as if his guts were being compacted. He jabbed his fist into the black eye. The fish bit down, and the last thing Hooper saw before he died was the eye gazing at him through a cloud of his own blood. He's got him, cried Brody. Do something! The man is dead, Quint said. How do you know? We may be able to save him. He's dead. Holding Hooper in its mouth, the fish backed out of the cage. It sank a few feet, chewing, swallowing the viscera that were squeezed into its gullet. And it shuddered and thrust forward with its tail, driving itself and prey upward in the water. He's coming up, Brody said excitedly. Grab the rifle. Quint cocked his hand for the throw. The fish broke water 15 feet from the boat, surging upward in a shower of spray. Hooper's lifeless body protruded from each side of the mouth, head and arms hanging limply down one side, knees, calves, and feet from the other. In the few seconds while the fish was clear of the water, Brody thought he saw Hooper's glazed, dead eyes staring open through his face mask. As if in contempt and triumph, the fish hung suspended for an instant, challenging mortal vengeance. Simultaneously, Brody reached for the rifle and Quint cast the harpoon. The target was huge, a field of white belly, and the distance was not too great for a successful throw above the water. But as Quint threw, the fish began to slide down in the water and the iron went high. For another instant, the fish remained on the surface, its head out of the water, Hooper hanging from its mouth. "Shoot!" Quint yelled. "For Christ's sake, shoot!" Brody shot without aiming. The first two shots hit the water in front of the fish. The third, to Brody's horror, struck Hooper in the neck. "Here, give me that goddamn thing," said Quint, grabbing the rifle from Brody. In a single, quick motion, he raised the rifle to his shoulder and squeezed off two shots. But the fish, with a last vacant gaze, had already begun to slip beneath the surface. The bullets plopped harmlessly into the swirl where the head had been. The fish might never have been there. There was no noise, save the whisper of a breeze. From the surface, the cage seemed undamaged. The water was calm. The only difference was that Hooper was gone. "Well, what do we do now?" Brody asked. "What in the name of God can we do now? There's nothing left. We might as well go back." "We'll go back," said Quint. "For now." "For now? What do you mean? There's nothing we can do. This fish is too much for us. It's not real, not natural." "Are you a beaten man?" "I'm beaten. All we can do is wait until God or nature or whatever the hell is doing this to us decides we've had enough. It's out of man's hands." "Not mine. I'm going to kill that thing. I'm not sure I can get any more money after what happened here today." "Keep your money. This is no longer a matter of money." "What do you mean?" Brody looked at Quint, who was standing at the stern, looking at the spot where the fish's head had been, as if he expected it to reappear at any moment, clutching the shredded corpse in its mouth. He searched the sea, craving another confrontation. Quint said to Brody, "I'm going to kill that fish. Come if you want. Stay home if you want. But I'm going to kill that fish." As Quint spoke, Brody looked into his eyes. They seemed as dark and bottomless as the eye of the fish. "I'll come. I don't guess I have any choice." "No," said Quint. "We have no choice." He took his knife from its sheath and handed it to Brody. "Here. Cut that cage loose and let's get out of here." When the boat was tied up at the dock, Brody walked toward his car. At the end of the dock, there was a phone booth, and he stopped beside it, prompted by his earlier resolve to call Daisy Wicker. But he suppressed the impulse and moved on to his car. What's the point, he thought. If there was anything, it's over now. Still, as he drove toward Amity, Brody wondered what Ellen's reaction had been when the Coast Guard had called her with the news of Hooper's death. See, Quint had radioed the Coast Guard before they started in. And Brody had asked the duty officer to phone Ellen and tell her that he, at least, was all right. By the time Brody arrived home, Ellen had long finished crying. She had wept mechanically, angrily, grieving not so much for Hooper as in hopelessness and bitterness at yet another death. She had been sadder at the disintegration of Larry Vaughn than she was now. For Vaughn had been a dear and close friend. Hooper had been a lover in only the most shallow sense of the word. She had not loved him. She had used him. And though she was grateful for what he had given her, she felt no obligation to him. She was sorry he was dead, of course, just as she would have been sorry to hear that his brother David had died. In her mind, they were both now relics of her distant past. She heard her husband's car pull into the driveway, and she opened the back door. Lord, he looks whipped, she thought. She watched him walk toward the house. Brody's eyes were red and sunken, and he seemed slightly hunched as he walked. She kissed him at the door and said, "You look like you could use a drink." That I could. He went into the living room and flopped into a chair. "What would you like?" "Anything, just so long as it's strong." She went into the kitchen, filled a glass with equal portions of vodka and orange juice, and brought it to him. She sat on the arm of the chair and ran her hand over his head. She smiled and said, "There's your bald spot. It's been so long since I touched your bald spot that I've forgotten it was there. I'm surprised there's any hair left at all. Christ, I'll never be as old as I feel today." "I'll bet. Well, it's over now." "I wish it was," said Brody. "I truly do wish it was." "What do you mean? It's over, isn't it? There's nothing more you can do." "We're going out tomorrow, 6 o'clock. "You're kidding." "I wish I was, honey." "Why?" Ellen was stunned. "What do you think you can do?" "Catch the fish and kill it." "Do you believe that?" "I'm not sure, but Quint believes it. God knows he believes it." "Then let him go. Let him get killed." "I can't." "Why not?" "It's my job." "It's not your job." She was furious now and scared, and tears began to well behind her eyes. Brody thought for a moment and said, "No, you're right." "Then why?" "I don't think I can tell you, because I don't think I know." "Are you trying to prove something, Martin?" "Maybe. I don't know. I didn't feel this way before. After Hooper was killed, I was ready to give up." "Well, what changed your mind?" "Quint, I guess. I mean, you're letting him tell you what to do?" "No, he didn't tell me anything. It's a feeling and I can't explain it. But giving up isn't an answer." it doesn't put an end to anything. Why is an end so important? Different reasons, I think. Quint feels that if he doesn't kill the fish, everything he believes in is wrong. And you? Brody tried to smile. Me? I guess I'm just a screwed up cop. Don't joke with me, Ellen cried and tears spilled out of her eyes. What about me and our children? Do you want to get killed? No. God, no. It's just, you think it's all your fault. You think you're responsible. Responsible for what? For that little boy and the old man. You think killing the shark will make everything all right. You want revenge. Brody sighed. Maybe I do. I don't know. I believe that the only way this town can be alive again is if we kill that thing. And you're willing to get killed trying to, don't be stupid. I'm not willing to get killed. I'm not even willing, if that's the word you want to use, to go out in that goddamn boat. You think I like it out there? I'm so scared. Every minute I'm out there, I want to puke. Then why go? She was pleading with him, begging. Can't you ever think of anybody but yourself? Brody was shocked at the suggestion of selfishness. It had never occurred to him that he was being selfish, indulging a personal need for expiation. I love you, he said. You know that, no matter what. Sure you do, she said bitterly. Oh, sure you do. They ate dinner in silence. When they were finished, Ellen picked up the dishes, washed them, and went upstairs. Brody walked around the living room and turned out the lights. Just as he reached for the switch to turn off the whole light, he heard a tap on the front door. He opened it and saw Meadows. Hey, Harry, come on in. Nope, said Meadows. It's too late. I just wanted to drop this by. He handed Brody a manila envelope. What is it? Open it and see. I'll talk with you tomorrow. Meadows turned and walked down the path to the curb where his car was parked, lights on and motor running. Brody shut the door and opened the envelope. Inside was a proof of the editorial page of the next day's Leader. The first two editorials had been circled in red grease pencil. Brody read, under the byline, a note of sorrow. In the past 3 weeks, Amity has suffered through one horrible tragedy after another. Its citizens and its friends have been struck down by a savage menace that no one can deter and no one can explain. Yesterday, another human life was cut short by the great white shark. Matt Hooper, the young oceanographer from Woods Hole, was killed as he tried to kill the beast single-handedly. People may debate the wisdom of Mr. Hooper's daring attempt, but call it brave or foolhardy, there can be no debate about the motive that sent him on his fatal mission. He was trying to help Amity, spending his own time and money in an effort to restore peace to this despairing community. He was a friend, and he gave his life so that we, his friends, might live. Under the byline, and a vote of thanks. Ever since the marauding shark first came to Amity, One man has spent his every waking minute trying to protect his fellow citizens. That man is Police Chief Martin Brody. After the first attack, Chief Brody wanted to inform the public of the danger and close the beaches. But a chorus of less prudent voices, including that of the editor of this newspaper, told him he was wrong. Play down the risk, we said, and it will disappear. It was we who were wrong. Some in Amity were slow to learn the lesson. When after repeated attacks, Chief Brody insisted on keeping the beaches closed, he was vilified and he was threatened. A few of his most vocal critics were men motivated not by public spiritedness, but personal greed. Chief Brody persisted, and once again he was proven right. Now, Chief Brody is risking his life on the same expedition that took the life of Matt Hooper. We must all offer our prayers for his safe return and our thanks for his extraordinary fortitude and integrity. After finished reading it, Brody said aloud, "Thank you, Harry." So around midnight, the wind began to blow hard from the northeast, whistling through the screens and soon bringing a driving rain that splashed on the bedroom floor. Brody got out of bed and he shut the window. Tried to go back to sleep, but his mind refused to rest. He got up again, put on his bathrobe, and he went downstairs to the living room. Turned on the television. He switched channels until he found a movie, Weekend at the Waldorf, with Ginger Rogers. Then he sat down in a chair, and he promptly slipped into a fitful doze. He awoke at 5, to the whine of the television test pattern, turned off the set, and he listened for the wind. It had moderated, seemed to be coming from a different quarter, but it still carried rain. He debated calling Quint, but thought, nah, no use. We'll be going even if this blows up into a gale. He went upstairs and quietly dressed. Before he left the bedroom, he looked at Ellen, who had a frown on her sleeping face. "I do love you, you know," he whispered, and he kissed her brow. He started down the stairs and then, impulsively, went and looked in the boys' bedrooms. They were all asleep. Chapter.
I don't know if you guys heard me crying in the background, but I was, because talk about this being totally different than the movie. I don't think that this is twice that Hooper has shocked me. Once was his affair with Ellen, and now it's getting into this cage. And oh my god, my head, I think you guys heard me diamond painting, because I heard the popping when I was doing the editing, and then I just heard myself crying in the background. I thought I was crying quietly, but I wasn't. Anyway, I was making some notes throughout this entire chapter, and you know, we have the 3 men back on the ship, and you know, there's been this tension over the past 2 chapters with Brody and Hooper. What is this, like the 3rd day on the boat, looking for the fish? And you know, it reaches that boiling point where Brody has his hands wrapped around Hooper's throat. This whole chapter was just foreshadowing for me. Usually it's like the chapter before. The whole chapter was just foreshadowing to me. And oh, if you're wondering where Johnny is, he took a break. He had, between his concert yesterday, his live concert, and we had date night last night, and he did this big reading. He was like, oh my God, I can't believe that this was an hour, and we had already did a half an hour. He's like, I gotta go lay down. And so if he comes back for the commentary, fine. If he doesn't come back for the commentary, I'll put this up so that you can have it, and then we'll do the commentary before we go into the last chapter. That might even be nicer, but I figured I'll show you guys what I finished diamond painting, and where I'm going next with this. But I was taking some notes, you know, the whole choking, Hooper, and you didn't hear from Quint during that whole scene where Brody has his hands around his throat and he wants to know, where were you that Wednesday? You know, he just wants him to admit it, but he's telling him that he was with Daisy, who the whole town knows is a lesbian, and like she just wanted to try it once. And so, you know, it was just so weak. But you know what it is when you don't want to believe that your spouse, your partner is cheating on you. You might just believe anything, because he does. Brody does go up on the deck to with Quint, and Quint is like, I don't think the kid's got it in him. And what did I write here? After the fight. After the fight. Oh, okay. So Brody is basically being ignored by Quint and Hooper in the beginning because he doesn't want that cage. He's not going to allow him to get into that cage. And again, just the foreshadowing. You know, the town of Amity is paying for this. I am responsible for this. You're not putting it on the boat. And Hooper says, well, if you don't get it put on the boat, then I'm not getting on the boat. Quint could care less either way, because he's going to get some extra coin, because Hooper says, like, I'll pay you. And it was so heartbreaking, because Hooper was the youngest one, so young. This was his occupation, his career. And, you know, that last scene of him getting into the cage, and when he's in there and he's like, he loved the sea and he loved marine life, and he just wanted to be buoyant with the sea, and he just wanted to have like that. He felt restricted by the cage. And, you know, you start to look through all those metaphors, like, is this like even like what's going on in his mind? He feels like he's boxed in, like he's caged with this lie. And then there was like other undertones, like religious undertones in this chapter, where Brody was telling Quint that the woman in the post office believes that this is all happening for a reason. And Quint is like, well, God made the fish. He could tell the fish what to do, you know. And it's like, all right, so if I stay with that train of thought, did Hooper die? Like an eye for an eye, like kind of a thought. Like you could go down the rabbit hole in so many different areas here. You know, I wasn't expecting that religious tone to come into play, but it did. And I think it just shows you a kind of character that Brody is. You know, there's man versus man on the boat, and they're like, and then Brody turns into the beast that is going to kill Hooper. That's what I meant by the foreshadowing. He's pulling at his fingers to, I can't breathe. And what happens in the cage? He loses his mouthpiece and he can't breathe. And when he finally gets his breath back, like that's when the shark, he sees how much damage the shark has done with the cage with just his snout. And I'm thinking, if the force of this fish hit that cage so much that it opened the bars open, like how did they not hear that from above? He was only 4 feet below, you know. But it was after the fight that and even Brody, you know, squeezing back tears. You probably could have killed him for sleeping with his wife, but he's squeezing back tears because he doesn't really want to know. He knows, you know, you just know. So after the fight, he becomes a little bit more like, hey, you want to go in the cage? Then he agrees. But not really, because when he does go in the cage, he's just like, you know, you're crazy. There was also this conversation too, like throughout the whole book, you hear, not the whole book, but when Quint actually walks into this story, he just keeps calling this fish a stupid fish, a dumb fish. He don't know how to do anything other than eat. That's all he knows. They'll eat themselves, you know. They're just eating machines. They're dumb fish. And Brody is like, Brody says to him, "You never met a smart fish?" Just think about that. "You never met a smart fish?" And Quint says, "Haven't met one yet." And Brody, in the story, it's like Brody's having a flashback of when that fish broke the surface, and he got a good look at him, and he's like, "I don't know, the way that fish was staring at me, he seems pretty smart." And like the whole thing now coming to fruition, like Quint saying, he's not acting the way that I think he should be acting. Like, I know fish, and he's not acting in the way that fish act. And that's what makes Hooper get into the cage, because he's like, "You're just pissed because this fish isn't playing by your rules." And Brody says something to him, like he's looking to get him to challenge his thought that there are no smart fish. And Brody says, "One smart fish, huh?" And he's just waiting for Quint to say, I'm getting them all confused. Quint to say, "There are no smart fish. What are you talking about?" And then, that whole scene of the way that Hooper died, and I can't imagine seeing this fish break surface with Hooper in his mouth, and how they're not all like shell shocked that we need to like just step away from this for a while, but they're going out the next day. And the one thought that Brody has is like, he's going to Daisy's house to find out if it was true, and he's like, "What does it matter? Does it matter now?" Well, maybe doesn't matter in the respect that Hooper's not around anymore, but this should give you a good little bit of insight into your wife, who is like, she sees her husband, and his eyes are sunken, and his gait is sunken. You get that just battered, depressed vibe that is coming off of Brody when he comes home, and she meets him at the door, and she's like, "You can use a drink." Like, I would have threw my arms around John. I would have sat on him. There would have been no way he would have been able to get back on that boat. I would have sat on him. I first of all, I would have never have let him go. I would have been on the boat with him probably. The horror that I don't think that there are any words when your partner witnesses such a horrific thing. And she's like, "You look like you can use a drink," and he's like, "As long as it's strong." And then she's like, petting his bald spot. "It's been so long since I touched your bald spot." I'm like, what kind of conversation is this? But then it turns into a fight, because he's going to go back on the boat. And she calls him selfish. He has a responsibility. He's taking this responsibility to his town, and he says that this town has no life until we catch that thing. I don't even know that they would have a life after that, because if this fish was lured to, if you don't understand the fish or know about the fish, what lured him there, like the fact that Quint was saying throughout the whole few chapters that he's been in, he's a stupid fish. Yeah, but he's already going against what we know. You know what I mean? He's already, he's out in shallow water. He's out in warm water. The fish, what would you say? He's on the spectrum? I don't know. As far as fish go, that was always my thing. Like, he was just toying with them. He was, and what he did with Hooper's body, Oh my God. But I did not like the fact that she started a fight with him and she called him selfish. You know, she's got fear, yeah, because she doesn't want to be a widow, with, you know, and it's just like, it makes me laugh in a way though too. Be like, oh well, here's your chance to start anew. Here's your chance to, you know, go be. My grandmother used to say, either you want to be an outdoor girl or you want to be an indoor girl. What do you want to be? You want to be an outdoor girl? You want to be an indoor girl? You want to stay at home and take care of your family? You want to be out and be a career girl and be, you know, out in the world? So it's like, oh well, here's your chance now. You could go out and go be an outdoor girl. You can go live this dream that you've been dreaming about, you know. And what is she thinking about? Larry Vaughn. Larry was a friend, but I really loved when the reporter came and gave him what he was going to put in print. You know, we lost Hooper, and you know, Chief Brody was telling us the whole time, and he was right. We were wrong. We should have closed those beaches, but he doesn't know the whole story either. So, yeah, it was a great chapter. It was a long chapter. I'm going to put some of my other questions that I have into this because he's probably not going to. I think he's down for the count right now. I know my husband, but let me show you what I was working on. But I'll put the commentary questions that I had in the description, so you can join in the discussion when we do have our sit down, and then that's going to be the last chapter, and then we're going to get ready for the viewing of Jaws, which will be on my Discord. So, yeah. We'll see. Gonna make it happen. Let me show you what I got done with my mermaid and where I'm going with this. And so while Johnny was reading, I got done this part, which is, you know, I have this split down the middle. Move my tripod here. I have this split down the middle. So this is the unfinished side. This is the finished side. Now this here's where I'm going next. And now one of my members, Gwen, is like, oh yeah, I need to take big sections. So this whole section I'm going to do all at one time. Because when I put my pen down, when he was reading about Hooper, I was intently listening. And then I didn't go back to diamond painting, but I was like, you know what? There's a lot of the same symbols here that I could do. And you know, I can get this done, this section done. So this is where I'm going to go, and then this half of the canvas will be done, and then I'm going to contact Donna and tell her that I need the AB drills for let me see, what's the AB? Well, let me show you the top of her. Yeah, see, this color here, I didn't know if these were mixed, because the whole jar is, let me see if I can pull it out here. The whole jar, this is the way that they came. So there's some AB drills in there and some with just the color. So it's AB959. And I'm like, is this the way that they want the hair to look? Like she just has some sparkle in there, because it's kind of like, and she was like, no, that's not the way it's supposed to be. So I believe that this part of her is correct, but then this part of the braid, these would all have to come out. They're AB drills. They're not. Or maybe I'll just leave them. I don't know. And then this part here are water droplets that I want to change out for what I had gotten at DP with Sparklers. So when you look away from it, they're like water droplets. I just hope that they're going to look like water droplets. So I might just change out. They're round. They're like bubbles. So I don't know. Or maybe I'll just add a few more bubbles, because that looks like, that section there looks like there's different color drills in there to make that look like a circle. And then there's the orca. He's so cool. And this is the next big section that I'm going to be working on here. I'm going to be doing all this, and then one half of her will be completely done. I think I bought this 2 years ago. So I dropped the camera out of my hand. It might be a motivational Monday and not a self-care Sunday, because it's like 6 o'clock already, and I still have some stuff to do for the events that I'm involved in. So if I don't see you later on this evening, because I'm going to be the one to crash next, even Foofi. He's in from his outdoor adventure with the birds. Did you hear him in the video that we stopped? A bird actually flew on our fence, and he was talking to it, and we stopped to capture that moment. But you know, everybody's crashing. I think I might crash too. And see you guys on Monday. Anyway, enjoy this chapter. One more to go, which means next Sunday my members will be getting the last chapter, and the subscribers will be getting this chapter, and then we'll have to wait up for them. We'll have to give them a week to catch up, and then we're going to have a commentary on the movie versus the book, and we're also going to do a commentary on Peter Benchley and Steven Spielberg. So we have some time yet for the movie, and you know, it'll be good because you know, the kids are going back to school, you guys are trying to get settled, and it'll be, you know, the last, you know, everybody wants to catch the last rays of sun in August. Everybody wants to be outdoors as much as they can. Yesterday when we were out to dinner, I noticed that it was like 8:15 and the sun was already gone, and I'm like, oh, it's coming, here comes the fall. So yeah, we have some time yet for the movie. It'll be fun. I still want to do it not too far away, not too far out of the summer, but and then I start reading what am I reading? The Bad Seed. That's going to be a good one. So I will see you soon. Bye. Enjoy your Sunday fun day.